Welcome to I Drink Your Podcast.
Oh gosh, it's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you.
You leave me no choice. Here comes the smolder.
Wait, you like that?
No.
I don't like that.
No, I don't like that.
No, how about that? You like that?
A little better.
Bread makes you fat?
Does this count as annoying?
Just tell me what you want me to fuck!
Not you, and not you.
Okay, I think it's time to take off your clothes and jump me.
$1 million isn't cool. You know what's cool?
I drink your podcast! I drink it up!
Welcome to the first bonus episode of our second season. With me today is Dylan.
Yo.
And Wesley.
Yo, I spit hot fire.
Yeah, you'll notice that Emily is not with us today. That's because she could not handle what we were about to watch. Respect to her, though, for knowing her boundaries, which I clearly don't, because I'm sitting here naked.
Thank God his camera's off.
Yeah.
I half expected you to turn around and have a tattoo of yourself on your back.
Actually, I have a henna tattoo of my brother as a tramp stamp.
Which one?
Jake, just peeking over my waistband.
I was hoping you were going to say, like, Paul.
So this is not a normal episode, so we're going to abandon the normal format of the episode. But Wesley came fully prepared today with a drink that's on brand. So, Wesley, why don't you tell us what's in your glass?
Well, in honor of a Mr. Danger, first name Aaron, I decided to make a little dry mix chocolate milk, and I'm calling it the Volcano. And because it's a dry mix, there are little lumps of chocolate in there that make it look extra surreal as it flows over the mountains and hills.
Can I have you do the beginning again? Because it's Dave, it wasn't Danger Aaron.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Leave it in.
Okay, cool.
I have been corrected. Don't care. I get those two mixed up. Even watching them like back to back.
Yeah.
Dave's more blonde. That's about it. When Aaron got the mohawk, I was thankful.
Dave is the shit expert. Like, all of the pooping stuff is Dave.
Because they say all the time that he can actually shit on command.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have Crohn's, so let's not brag.
So you're not special.
Humble brag.
Well, Jackass began in the late 90s as two separate video series, one from the skateboarding magazine Big Brother, which was headed by Jeff Tremaine, who's the director of this movie, and Johnny Knoxville, who was the primary stunt person of those videos. And the other one was the CKY crew, which was headed by Bam, and they both kind of merged together around the year 2000 to kind of sell this idea of people doing stunts. And originally, SNL wanted to do this as like a recurring segment, similar to how digital shorts were happening around that time. So this was an idea that a lot of Hollywood really glommed onto, and MTV was the one that ended up getting the rights to it, and the TV show started in 2000. And then in 2002, they released the first movie, and in 2006, the second movie. Now, we all grew up around the time of the start of Jackass. Dylan was a senior in high school at that time, and Wesley and I were in high school. So we have experiences with Jackass. Why don't we talk about those?
For me, watching it mostly was kind of not even, it was out of high school, more in college, when on weekends where you had nothing to do, MTV would do either Viva La Bam marathons or Jackass marathons like all the time. So that's usually when I was watching those. And they were hilarious. Just all, you just sit back, have a few beers, and just laugh your ass off.
I was in middle school when it first started coming out, so it's just prime audience for that kind of stupid humor. Before watching the third movie last night, I actually went back and watched the very pilot episode. Very pilot? What does that mean? But yeah, I watched the pilot episode, and it was shocking how like tame it was, both because it was on cable channel versus having free reign to do whatever they wanted in a movie. So I showed that to my parents who were watching it with me, and they had never seen any Jackass before, had no real idea what to expect. So I started off with the TV show to be like, this is where it started. This is kind of what it looked like. It was very guerrilla footage, low quality. And it was just a lot of really quick, like, hey, I did this dumb thing and somebody saw me. But I agree with Dylan that it was just so easy to throw on a marathon of all of these. And I think we can discuss it later, but I think Viva La Bam is probably the reason why Bam is the way he is current state. You know, he was really the only one who had, well, I guess Pontius and Steve-O had Wild Boys, but am I missing anything else? Those were the only two spin-offs, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if we want to later we can talk about it, but my personal opinion is Viva La Bam really, really messed him up. But in that first episode, he's just a spaz. I mean, his whole jokes are pretty much like he just like starts to convulse as he's punching his dad and falls to the ground. So yeah, it was interesting.
I grew up with 4 brothers, so this type of humor was incorporated into our lives. Like, we would hit each other in the nuts and do all of this silly, stupid stuff that it warns you at the beginning of every episode not to do. I never got as crazy as my brother Zach, who actually started filming some of the stunts, like jumping off roofs and shooting firecrackers out of his ass and stuff like that. But this touched a generation. Like, there were a series of people and young boys who wanted to emulate these guys who would just do stupid shit for the sake of stupid shit.
That was one of my favorite lines in the, I think it was in the post-credit scene or in the end credit scene, where Bam and Dunn are talking to his mom. Or no, it's right after the cattle brand.
That's not Jackass 3. Did you watch the right one?
Yeah, I went and watched the other two also.
Okay.
So, whoops, I might have mixed that up. So, not in this movie, but in another movie, Bam and Ryan are talking to April, Bam's mom, and Dunn had hot cattle branded, whatever you call that thing, a dick onto Bam's ass. And he shows his mom, and she's like, why would you do that? And Ryan just looks at her just dead serious and goes, it was funny. Like,
right.
As he's got an infected butt with like a 3D image of a dick branded on his butt.
On October 15th, one movie will change 3D forever.
Now, Johnny Knoxville, welcome to Jackass!
How many bee stings do you think we can take?
I think it takes about 100 to kill a man.
What? There's 50,000 bees.
Did you just make that up, please? This whole series and or movies, everything, Jackass or whatever related, it's almost like a triple dog dare, like in A Christmas Story. That's what it just seems like. That's all that this is, and that's just kind of a boy guy thing. It's just that, you know, I dare you to do this, and then it just escalates to the point of, oh, let's film this because this is just too funny.
So that's an interesting point to compare it to an actual movie. And I think, what do you guys feel about this being like a movie versus just, I don't even know what you would describe it as, but I've never really thought of it in terms of against other movies like Dylan just compared.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think?
I don't think you can call it a movie. It's an extended episode, kind of like how when we talked about the Simpsons movie. Yeah, it's just a longer series of the same gags that you always saw. Just now it's on the big screen, and now you can do it in 3D, and you've got more money behind it, and now you can show full frontal peen.
You don't have the censorship like you do.
Yep.
Even on cable. If you're really gonna stretch this, you could almost say it's like a documentary of pain. Just a documentary of stupid pain.
I guess so.
There's no narration or anything, but...
Yeah, because I was going to say that I think the main differentiator between this and a movie is obviously there's no plot line, there's no story, there's no through line through any of these other than, I guess, pain.
I mean, Wesley, you and I saw Jackass 4 together in theaters. I would argue Jackass 4 is the first one that's an actual movie because it's having this narrative of passing the torch and kind of one generation giving way to the next generation, which as a documentary, at least you could argue that there's a narrative there. Whereas these first three, they're all just like random segments pieced together expertly because the pacing on these movies is incredible.
Yeah, that's one thing I'll say about these movies that I think is so well done is that they'll do 2 or 3 really out there, hilarious, gross things. And then they'll do like 3 or 4 more that are just tame, very simple. Like in this one, the Preston going into the Walgreens drugstore type thing, and then comes out and it's a little fat midget wearing the exact same outfit going, yeah, thanks, man, to a guy holding his dog. So that's, those are kind of tame and they're funny, but it's that perfect pacing because if you just kept showing the painful, eventually you can't watch anymore because you're just like, okay, I've seen too much. There's a point where it gets too much.
Yeah, they definitely throw in a variety of things. It's not just the ones that they are most known for are the gross and extreme and painful. But yeah, they do a nice mix of other stuff to where even if you don't want to sit through and from another movie, a crazy skit where Pontius puts his penis through a wall and has a snake bite it. If you can't stand that kind of stuff, the next one might get you with something a little more tame but still funny.
And I watched Jackass 3 last night with Dylan, and then right after that we watched Jackass 3.5, which is basically they had so many stunts that they just decided to make another movie with almost a little more of a documentary style with like interviews with the cast explaining the stunts. And as I'm watching 3.5, a lot of those stunts in there, I was like, oh my God, that's really funny. How did that not make it into the movie? But then you think about what you just said, Dylan, where it's like, well, if you take all the really funny bits and just kind of stack them on top of each other, there's eventually going to be diminishing returns because you can't sustain that for the whole time. You need these little breaks within that are just kind of quick segments, like just shooting a dildo straight at the camera.
And I think that's what really sets them apart too, is from a distance looking at this movie, it seems very basic. It's like we do stupid stuff, we film it. But I think what made Jackass stand alone and be so popular as it, touched an entire generation was just how smart they were with that, with divvying it up and having a full cast of people. You never know who was going to, it's not like everybody has their own thing. There are a couple of people who kind of normally do a thing, but everybody gets it. Nobody's safe. Even the cameramen, even the directors. I always love that. The on the set pranks where they just surprise each other.
And I think that also is what separated this from other MTV reality type shows of this time. Like when I think of Jackass, I also think of Punk'd because it came out around the same time. And the thing that Jackass did so well, though, that Punk'd didn't, was Jackass never felt mean-spirited in what it was doing. It was always people like voluntarily, like, I'm going to get hurt, I'm going to get tased or whatever. And even when the stuff is like against someone else, like I'm going to buzz your hair, it was never something that was so egregious that it would cause like real harm to a person. Whereas Punk'd, I feel like, was very mean-spirited. It was very focused on really like torturing this person emotionally and psychologically just for giggles.
I mean,
yeah, didn't they make Justin Timberlake cry?
Yeah.
In one of the episodes, and then it's like, that's so fun. It's like, I enjoy more of like what the Jackass guys do and stuff like that than the more mean-spirited, pranky type stuff where it's wounds heal, outside wounds and scrapes heal. But if you piss someone off enough, like psychologically, then you're kind of damning yourself for, you can end friendships and whatnot out of that.
Well, I totally agree that that's a main difference between those two shows. Jackass definitely didn't not emotionally damage people or cause major stuff because and this is from a different movie, but one prank that they did was renting a car and then turning it into a crash derby car and then trying to return it and then saying, I'm not paying for this, and running away. So I don't know if that was the reality of the situation, but
it wasn't, because they eventually go back and pay for the car. Like
I assume
that's what I'm talking about. Like you're doing stuff to get reactions out of people, but it's not reactions that are going to cause them like maybe even lifelong hurts. Like even within this movie, you have Bam in the snake pit, which is a psychological thing. But also Bam voluntarily is in this movie. Like he's one of the cast members. So it's not like Punk'd where you're not signing up to do it. You're just forced into it.
Okay.
It's not like they invited, well, I'll just keep using his name, Justin Timberlake. It's not like they invited Timberlake out there just for the day to kind of hang out with the guys and whatnot. And then they just did that without him knowing at all. You know, that's different. It's different.
And I think one of the other big differences is even after those emotionally traumatic pranks or extremely dangerous, or when they get snuck up on and punched from the back of the head, they almost always end it with you assholes, and it's smiling.
Right.
Like, so you can tell that, like, okay, that was horrible for a second. I'm over it. We're friends.
Almost like every stunt ends with either applause or hugging it out or something like that, where they're just all smiles and they're laughing. It's kind of beautiful to see. I know that sounds so weird, but it's
no, I agree.
It's nice to see.
Well, I think we as content creators can kind of see where that comes from too, because like Preston, you talked about he took a Rocky right to the head, which is where you throw a glass of water in their face and then punch them without them knowing. But like we rag on each other here on the show, but we know that deep down, like it's for the show. We love each other deep down, and we know that. And it's that way with them too. Like when I rip on Dylan and make fun of his mom, like I do it out of love.
Yeah, when I make fun of Dylan's kids, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, we do that when we're not being recorded.
Yeah, that's just for us. But I hope Matt knows that deep down I love him, because boy, sometimes I feel bad because he looks like he took it internally.
Well, he'll never know because he doesn't listen to our goddamn show, so he won't hear this.
Booyah.
Secrets. Are you really
let's
naked?
Start talking.
No. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, let's talk about some of our favorite segments from this movie. So
let's
moving on.
Let's change gears.
Well, we're not a video podcast.
Nope, that's just for us. You guys don't know if he actually is or not.
I think based on the giggling, they can know for sure that I am.
I don't know. You could have had like one of those elephant thongs on.
Mm-hmm. One of those butt plugs that are tails. You guys know what I'm talking about?
I still call that naked. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Tail on.
I've always got one on. I just wear pants.
Okay. Favorite segments of this movie. Doesn't have to be your most favorite, but kick us off with one.
I'll go right at the beginning, the high five.
Yes.
Because that, I think, is one of those ones that fits in that idea of even after it's done to them, they're laughing incredibly hard. They're, hugging it out, clapping, laughing, that kind of thing. And then they just kind of say, all right, so-and-so's coming up. Let's do it to him next. Yeah. So it's not just them going after one person. It's everybody's involved.
So it's very early in the movie, and you almost have to understand the context of when they film movies in the past about all these on-set pranks, because one of the first things is them cracking up because they got somebody to carry soup down the hallway to do this, and they're all laughing at like, what kind of idiot lets us say carry soup down the hallway and just does it?
Yeah. Johnny Knoxville wheezing saying he fell for the soup is one of my favorite lines of the entire movie.
Yeah, so I think that one it might have been misplaced in the movie. Just I think it would have been better later for anybody who wasn't super familiar with Jackass, because like I said, I was watching with my parents and that came on and I was like, this is brilliant. But if you don't fully know the history, then it loses some aspect of it.
Yeah, I love any Jackass one where they have some sort of crazy contraption that they've rigged up. Like,
Yeah.
I love the crazy contraption ones that sneak up on people. Those are some of my favorites. The one I want to call out first is the jet engine.
Yes.
I love when they take real world stuff and then show you the true impact of it. Like, I think of a jet engine and I'm like, oh yeah, that would blow a lot of wind. But then when they throw that football up and you see how fast that football goes, and you're like, oh my God. Like, from there, I was hooked, and everything was funny that they did with that jet engine.
And I hate to say, I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember the ad campaign that they were making fun of or parodying. And that
they refresh that every couple years.
Yeah, and that was just too fun. I was like, what a good way to kind of, because that's their generation, our generation, to kick it out. That it's kind of like, okay, yeah, we kind of have an idea of where this is going to go. And then it just goes that, not even one step, 3 steps farther that it should go.
I absolutely love it because you can almost see their minds at work with the improv of what to throw into the exhaust, where Johnny's under the thing throwing either footballs or tomatoes at that point. But then you kind of just see this moment where he's like, oh, I'm going to see what my shoe does. He just takes off his shoe and throws it up into there. And he was like, that was awesome. Everybody give me your shoes. And they all just from the sidelines start throwing shoes at him.
And that, I think, actually, that scene captures the true essence of Jackass with Bam Margera pissing into the wind. And he just gets covered in piss. And Johnny Knoxville just goes, that's visually Jackass, just us pissing into the wind. I was like,
one of my favorites. I wrote down more than a couple because I love them. So I'll start with a smaller one. Personally, I just loved the duck hunt.
Yes.
Anything with a giant blob is normally pretty funny, but then you dress them up like ducks, and when they get launched, their feathers just go flying, and then having just a boat full of people with paint guns to shoot them while they're spinning helplessly in the air is a hilarious idea. And then on top of that, you get the bonus fun of the 2 people jumping. On the first jump, they somehow landed on each other, and like the bigger guy landed on this other guy's face to launch him. And yeah, I think that one was just one of those like quick, brilliant scenes.
That one was funny from concept all the way through execution. Like, on paper, you see that and you're like, oh my God, that's funny. When they do it, you're like, oh my God, that's funny. Like, that's just, that's how you know you got a good one.
The idea is funny. The visual was funny. The audio was funny. Hearing all those paintball guns just go pop, 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 pop. And then just the end result was just perfect. And nobody really got hurt that bad. It was just an exciting visual to see, really.
I also like the ones where the execution seems to overshadow the concept. And in this one, I think of the field goal, where Preston is painted like a field goal post and a professional NFL kicker is kicking a field goal. And when they rolled that out, I was like, that's not going to be funny. Like, who cares? But then the football manages to hit him perfectly under the chin. And it's like, okay, like, yes, that execution like won me over more than the idea.
And the football afterwards, you can see it has a giant yellow spot on the football where Preston was painted yellow like a goalpost. Yep. Like, just that little thing. That wasn't intentional. They didn't even talk about it, but just that little thing is just like, wow, that really got him right in the face.
Same thing with the golf ball in the racquetball court.
Oh, God, that one had to hurt.
That golf ball, Ben, you know what I thought of, right?
Yeah.
The only person I've ever actually seen do this in person, Ben and I were golfing one time, and he tried to go through the woods because there was a path, but the path had wooden railings on each side, and I'm hiding behind the golf cart like a sane person, and Ben just takes he went for it, takes a full swing, it hits the fence post and bounces back directly in his groin area. God damn it, it was funny. It was so funny, though.
Speaking of like football, and also the ones that are kind of the more low-key, was The Blind Side, where Jared Allen is tackling Johnny Knoxville. That's a good kind of a good example of a nice slow down, catch your breath and just kind of have a little giggle. But I really like that one too. Just the thought of Jared Allen, that big, huge man,
doing his cattle tie after he knocks Knoxville down on the first one.
And then just even the beginning, when you're seeing how much bigger Because I think sometimes we forget how big football players really are until you're standing right next to them, or you're seeing an average person standing next to them, and you're like, oh my God, you're built like a Greek god. You're huge. You're like a foot taller than Johnny Knoxville, or, it's pretty funny to watch.
Do you guys think that they really only did those 2 hits? Or how many takes do you think it got to get those? Because they only show 2 hits, and they are epic hits.
I don't think Knoxville could have taken much more than the 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look what he said to Jared Allen on the second one. Try not to hit me with your purse like you did the last time.
Right.
Another brief one that I really enjoyed, mostly for the guest in it, but I don't remember the title, but it was the Christmas tree cutting down with Santa Claus on top of it. But they have the special guest, the Dudesons, which I don't know. Did you guys ever see the Dudesons?
Yeah, that was kind of a spin-off, Jackass-y type spin-off.
And I don't know, maybe fix this in post, but they're from Iceland, Sweden, Norway. They're up in that direction.
If you want me to fix it in post, don't say them all incredulously. Like, just say them 3 after the other, and I can put the one in that works.
Iceland, Norway, Denmark.
I'm leaving all this in. Fuck you.
And you want to know the funny part? He still hasn't gotten it right.
I was gonna say, none of these feel right. Go look it up for yourselves. They're interesting because I don't know. They do the Jackass thing, but they do it differently, and they have fun accents and hilarious names, like Yupa.
Finnish.
I said Finland, didn't I?
Did you?
I don't know, but you wouldn't let me finish.
Fuck both of you. The last one I want to call out, actually, it's 2 of them, and really it's anytime they use it, but I love the use of the Phantom HD camera in this movie. I love all of the slow motion shots using the high-speed camera. The Rocky is one of those, like, super quick, but it's really funny when you can see the true impact of a hit and what it does to contort a person's face. And the exploding room at the end, again, uses that Phantom cam so well and creates just such a cool picture.
Well, in the opening too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one more that I'd like to spot here that's kind of that I thought was funny. It's not a Jackass movie unless you have Bam's parents involved in it somehow. And the gorilla prank that they pull with Pontius dressed as a gorilla.
Phil got the shit scared out of him.
And Phil got I had to take a mean shit.
It's coming out. Listen to it.
Yeah.
I've still got 3 on my list, so I guess I'll just mention them real quick. The one where they have a friend who can fart on command, and they end up relaying that into him putting a blowgun up to his butt and then popping a balloon in Steve-O's butt. That was just, I was more impressed than anything. But that one was great. It's not very PC, I don't think. But the one where Wee Man is on a date in the bar, and then another little person comes in and says, like, what are you doing? She's my girlfriend. And he goes, well, I'm her man friend. And then he leaves and then comes back with a little people posse. And then the police come in to break it up, but they're all little people. And then after the fight, the ambulance comes in, and it's just this onslaught of like, this, we're just going to keep hitting this joke. And then they finally leave, and the people left in the bar are just like, I don't know what the hell just happened. And like that, what I would give to be one of those anonymous people. Like, I love that. And the last one I want to talk about, because it really was probably my favorite, was the whole super glue thing. And they did a couple of them, but it starts off with Bam putting super glue on his hands and slapping it to both Phil and Preston's chest hair. And then when he started to do the orchestra of like lifting up when he wanted them to, that was hilarious. And then eventually it turns into them convincing Wee Man to lay on Preston's chest as they super glue them together. And then they were like, all right, how do we get them apart? And I think it was Knoxville said, like, somebody get the cattle prod. And Wee Man's like, no, and tries to stand up, and you can just immediately see, like, this is not going to go well.
Those were all fun. How about least favorite? Were there any that were like you cringy or ones that you just couldn't watch or don't want to watch again?
Again, I've mentioned on the podcast before, I'm not a fan of tooth violence or things happening to the teeth or mouth. And that Lamborghini tooth pull. Oh my God.
Was that Aaron?
That was Danger Aaron, yeah.
Okay.
And oh my God, that one was the worst one for me. Just because you could hear the pop of the tooth coming out. You heard that pop. And it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, that one was on my short list. But the one I absolutely, like, I almost had to stop. It did make me nauseous. Was the sweatshot.
Yeah.
Where
the sweatsuit.
Preston is dressed up in just a plastic bag and they try to drain his sweat from it, and it is just like a milky color. And then Steve-O drinks it, but like after he literally grabs his underwear inside and drains it out and takes a washcloth and like wipes his butt with it and then drains it out. Like
that's starting to make my stomach turn a little bit just hearing it and seeing. Oh God,
hard to swallow.
That was my least favorite one, for sure.
Well, what'd you guys think of the big last grand one? Was, you know, the Poo Poo Supreme. What'd you guys think of that one? Steve-O on a porta potty being
that was
launched.
Gross.
I mean, that one was gross, but at the same time, like that one would be much harder to watch while you're there because of the smell associated with it. Whereas the sweatsuit like is enough on its own visually to just completely disgust me. Like poop is poop. Like who cares? But that cup of sweat is, you don't ever see sweat in a cup like that. You see poop in a porta potty all the time.
Well, that was dog poop.
It was?
Yeah. They even say so in the beginning of it that it is dog poop, but I've heard just with all the Jackass 4 promotions and stuff going around, I've heard a lot of stories about these, and they said that it was against the law to use human feces like that. So they had to use dog poop. And Steve-O does say it right in the beginning.
I hate to say that actually makes me feel somewhat better.
It does. Yeah.
About it. That sounds so weird. But that should be the next thing the Jackass guys do is a book. Come out with a book talking about the invention of some of these, just the backstories of some of these stunts.
No, like the oral history of The Office that came out a few years ago, where they talked about their ideas for the episodes and how they came up with them. Like I would really enjoy reading a book like that.
Because you don't think they have sketches, or you don't think they have sketches or something like that drawn out, written out, or something like that they could put in a book.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be fun. I think that'd be really fun to see.
Again, I rewatched the very first episode of the TV show, and one of the first pranks in there is where they have a guy pretending to be blind, and he gets in a car and immediately crashes and then hits a guy on a bike and then drives away. But they have, before that, just this rudimentary sketch of like street corners. Here are the 3 cars. Here's where the bike's going to get hit. Like, I would love to see a book of that. Like, if they have those like plans and drawings, and if they actually did that very often, but I think that would be pretty funny.
Well, that's what I mean. I think that would be a really kind of a fun book to read about, is the story behind the stunt and how they planned it and did it. And
yeah, but see, I'm talking about a picture book. I don't want to read.
Oh no, so same here.
A pop-up book.
Like it would have pictures and stuff. Oh my God.
Of the volcano.
It's just all dicks.
It's a poop-up book.
Oh.
There are 9 main cast members in Jackass. Let's talk about who had it the roughest in this movie and who had it the easiest. And we'll start with the easiest. Based on the skits that you saw in Jackass 3, who had the easiest time in Jackass 3?
I want to say Dunn or Wee Man.
I'm going Wee Man.
Interesting. I have Wee Man at the bottom of my list too. I had a very clear, like, these bottom 4 had it the easiest, and then these 5 had it the hardest. So I think we can all agree that Wee Man had it pretty easy. Like, he got hit with a fish, he ate a fart bubble, and he got super glued to Preston, and that was really about it for what he did in this movie.
He had to dress up like a leprechaun.
Oh, that's pretty bad. Ooh.
I'm surprised you said Dunn, though, Wesley. Let's talk about Dunn in this movie, because
yeah,
I thought he had it pretty bad. I thought he'd be in the top.
Same here.
I was just thinking back on some of the worst stuff, and Dunn didn't immediately pop into my head for any of the worst scenes.
I thought that ram going after him, like, he took a lot of hits from that ram. It was funny, but like that would also hurt a lot.
Yeah, but he seemed to kind of get out of there pretty quick. He wasn't knocked out like Knoxville twice.
Right. Dunn also got drop kicked in the head.
Oh yeah.
And jumping the river.
Yeah.
Well, he almost made that.
Well, he smacked his nuts against the little bike. You see him the second the smoke, the cloud of dirt clears. You see him just grabbing his crotch.
Oh, that's normal.
There's one guy who I think always gets it pretty easy in these movies, and that's Pontius, because he's just the naked guy that's around to just kind of do naked things and do penis things. So he was definitely clearly in the bottom for me.
I bet he's in your bottom.
Oh,
ew. I would say with Pontius, if you watch the end credits when he says, the only reason I'm part of this group is because I was the only one who had a truck who could move the ramps.
Yeah.
So that kind of does put him in that, well, yeah, that's so he didn't want to get horribly involved with the getting hurt, but he was just like, I just like being here and it's funny. And plus, I think he adds a great comedic element.
Yeah.
Like when he dresses up as Bunny, the lifeguard or the safety person, you know, that's funny. That was pretty funny.
I think he is just an example of why this ensemble cast works really well. It wouldn't be a good show or movie if they were all Bam Margera's who just flail around like somebody having a seizure and like that's their punchline. So he is very different, and that's true. Now thinking back on it, he doesn't really get it bad because he doesn't care about being naked. Like I wouldn't want to do all that stuff. I couldn't hit a ping pong ball with my flaccid penis. That felt really weird to say out loud, and I don't like it.
So one that I typically think gets it pretty bad in these movies, but I thought had it really easy in this one was Bam.
Yeah. He didn't seem to be as involved with this one.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely seemed to be more behind the scenes. That snake pit, like, man, I know what fears do. And like I had a hard needle phobia for a long time. And I remember going to see Saw 2, where somebody falls into a pit of needles, and I just about like cried and left the theater. Like, so I can't imagine what that was like to be actually afraid of snakes and then think you're just getting pranked with rubber ones and still being freaked out, and then having that giant boa constrictor dumped in there. Oh my God, I would have died.
Okay, let's skip to the top now. Who had it the worst?
Steve-O.
I was going to say Danger Aaron, but then earlier in this podcast, I realized one of my examples was not him. So I think between Dave England and Danger Aaron, one of those two got it. And my other one definitely would be Steve-O, just on the porta potty alone.
Well, and drinking the sweat. Like he's a master of puking. Like that's how they use him is we need someone to puke. We're going to get Steve-O.
Yeah.
Well, and he used to just be so hopped up on drugs.
That's true.
We need someone who will drink or eat anything.
Mm-hmm.
Where's Steve-O? That's kind of what it's either him or Dave. That's always kind of like here, we dare you to eat this or drink this.
Yep.
Because I think it was in one of the previous Jackasses, Dave ate a piece of horse shit, I do believe, in one of them.
A piece of poop.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, he's got that mouth. It's just ready for eating. But just to go back to Aaron, the Lamborghini one was already mentioned, and then I miscredited Aaron as doing the volcano, but the other one was the donkey kick.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And it seems like Aaron almost always is the one that has to do something with like getting hit in the balls.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that just doing that again, and the way he walks up to get kicked a second time, where he's just like legs spread and just like shaking, and all of them in the background are mimicking him. It was hilarious.
A little shuffle.
Yeah.
Conceptually, it wasn't one that should have gotten him hurt so bad, but the shopping cart ski jump where he lands on his head.
Yes.
Like that one for Aaron was the one where it was like, oh my God. Like that's why you're in the neck
like
brace at the end of the movie. Right.
Yeah.
But I also thought, so this is one we haven't talked about, but Steve-O and Dave do one called B Tetherball, which is again, one that you think of and you're like, okay, that wouldn't hurt too bad. But then one of the guys says, it takes 100 bee stings to kill you. And I think Steve-O goes, there's 50,000 bees over there.
Just a game of odds.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I really like that one too.
And then just Steve-O at the end, how he's like, if Dave would just chill out, they'd stop stinging him, but he just keeps going.
And then I thought Knoxville got it pretty bad too. Just although the blunt force trauma he takes.
Yeah.
Like he's constantly getting hit by things, the golf ball, the bull, the buffalo, the exercise ball falling out of the tree, Jared Allen, like he's constantly just getting knocked around.
The opening credits where that inflatable thing pops out and hits him in the head. But see, that's the thing is like that's been his gig, is the guy who will stand there and take a huge hit.
Yeah, everybody like you said, everybody has their own little niche or shtick within the group, and that's his. And even he has admitted he loves. I think I saw something on YouTube of him being interviewed, and one of the questions was, "Why do you do so much stuff with bulls?" And he was like, "I love bulls." Mm-hmm. He's like, "I don't know why. I love bulls, and I like the whole idea of being in that moment and a bull is just coming after you." He's like, "I don't know why. I just do."
I really like the artistry where he's facing the bull in this one, where he's doing that like camouflage paint where you paint yourself so that when you stand up against a background, you kind of disappear. And I absolutely loved it because the bull just stepped to the side and Johnny's still trying to like blend into the background, but it's like, it doesn't work from the side, dude.
Johnny Knoxville is the perfect face for Jackass because, first of all, his laugh is just fucking infectious. Like anytime he starts laughing and cackling, I start laughing. But also he's just got this charm and this it factor that it's like, I truly believe you're a really good guy. And I don't know you personally, but like I've seen interviews with him and he's just a great guy. And I can see why people would be talked into doing these stunts for him.
He's the king of spring break.
He's got a genuineness.
That's Dan Cortez as the king of spring break.
Isn't that what they call him with the jet ski jump though?
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
you are the king of spring break. But he just has a genuine side to him that he just likes people. He seems very affable. Like you could just walk up to him and just be like, "Hey, you're Johnny Knoxville. Yeah, I like your stuff." And
yep. And you see people coming back from movies that he starred in with them. Like Sean William Scott is in this movie. The some of the guys from The Ringer are in this movie. Like you get the sense that they just want to hang out with Johnny because Johnny's a cool guy to hang out with.
I can't get Dan Cortez out of my head now. Yeah, that was such a good pull. Man, truly was the king of spring break.
Where does this rank in terms of the Jackass movies?
I mean, the quality was good, which is, you see that every movie, they bump it up somehow. So they tried to get more technical with the 3D stuff, which was very apropos for the time. Obviously, I didn't watch it in 3D, and there were definitely a couple scenes where you can tell, like, oh, that might look cool. And they didn't overextend it so that it looks gimmicky, like a lot of those 3D movies did back then. But as far as content, I think it was one of the more subdued and more palpable for people to watch, where like if you haven't seen 4 yet and you don't like looking at naked dudes, don't see it, because like 90% of their jokes are just them naked.
I thought this one was also probably my least favorite. I've watched all 4 of them within the last couple weeks. And this one, for some reason, just when I think back on it, it doesn't have the truly outstanding segments that I think of with the other ones. The teeter-totter for the bulls. Like, there are other ones in other movies where it's like instantly, yes, that's from Jackass 2. Yes, that's from Jackass 1. This one, other than the Poo Cocktail Supreme, like, I couldn't tell you what specifically was in this one. But the hand shows up in other ones, like it's in 4 also, because they bring it back.
By this point, and that's probably why they took such a long hiatus, other than other stuff, but, you know, they had already done so much at that point in 10 years.
Mhm.
Like when I went back and started watching the first movie, I was shocked to find out that it was 2002, only 2 years after they'd been on the TV show. And so in 10 years, they burned through, are there 2 seasons of Jackass?
3.
2.
There are a couple seasons of Jackass, and then they started making movies, and I think physically just had to be getting tired of doing this. And then, it's a couple of them branched out and everything, so I think that you could tell even with like Bam, and after the snake skit, he's like, I'm so glad I have to be out of here, and like on a plane to go somewhere else, it's kind of insinuated. So like they're already doing other stuff, so they're kind of like half-hearted into this third movie, I think. And that's why I think it was a little bit less than the others.
Yeah, this one definitely, I still enjoyed it. I still liked it, but it kind of felt like, how they have the 2.1.5, 2.5, 3.5. This kind of felt like they took a bunch of the ideas that were still like, I don't know if we can film that one yet, or anything, that's not as funny from the previous movies. And then this time they were like, all right, let's dig some of those ones out again and rework them. This one felt, it felt like they were all tired. If you think about it, when did Viva La Bam was either going or about to. Johnny Knoxville, I think the reason why the Dudesons were in it was because I think he produced the Dudesons and brought it to MTV. So all of these guys the major guys were doing stuff already, and I think they were just tired and burning the candle at both ends.
Didn't they do a prank like that, burning the candle at both ends, like one on your mouth, one on your butt?
I do not remember.
Probably. That sounds like a TV show one.
Probably, but yeah.
If not, you guys can have it, Jackass.
And just kind of look, this one came out in 2010, and now it's taken them, 12 years to come out with a new one. So they needed probably 5 to 6 years of rehab and rest, and then another 6 years of planning and filming.
I saw another interview for Jackass Forever, and one of the questions they asked the crew was, who's the first one to pick up the phone and say, let's make another movie? And I think the answer was Dave, but whoever it was, they just like live out in the woods and don't really do anything. Oh. So they're like, yeah, Dave's always the first one. He's just like, I'm bored. Let's make another movie.
Well, Dylan, Wesley, thanks for joining me today. And thank you to our listeners for sticking with us and giving us a chance in this bonus episode. I know it was a little different from how we normally do things, but we are going to continue to do this for movies that don't really fit our criteria, but that we want to talk about. So obviously for our show, we're doing no reboots, prequels, and sequels, and this is a sequel. And all of our bonus episodes will follow that same framework where it's going to be an idea we've already seen on screen in some form. So continue to check us out on our normal programming and on our bonus episodes, and give us a like, rate us, subscribe to us, share us with a friend or two, and you can reach us on social media at IDYP_podcast, on Twitter and Instagram, or at idrinkyourpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you, everybody, and have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Subscribe.